All right. Happy Monday. Happy Monday rolling out. This is your host, Crystal Jordan. And of course, it is time for Reality Check. You guys know we're here every Monday, 8 and 8:30 back-to-back reality checks. And it's been a beautiful weekend. I hope you guys had a great weekend. It is extremely hot here in the ATL. It is like record breaking. I don't know if the temperatures are record breaking, but it feels like, that heat index, it feels crazy. It feels like 102, 103 degrees. It is hot here in Atlanta, but it's a new week. We're starting out. It's Monday. And before we get into tonight's reality check, because I see we've got people waiting, everybody's excited to hear from the beautiful Miss Kimmi from Love Marriage Huntsville. But you guys know this show is all about relationships. And we try to celebrate #Black Love as often as possible. And so today I had to make sure that we took a little time out to celebrate the very beautiful, the very talented, the charismatic Issa Rae, and the fact that she got married and surprised the entire internet, right? No one even knew that she was dating, which is a beautiful thing. The fact that she kept her relationship under wraps, and yet she is proof that you can absolutely have it all. She has an amazing career. And the thing that I really love about Issa Rae and that I really admire about her as a fellow content creator and writer, I'm definitely a writer at heart, is the fact that she was able to build a career being exactly herself. That is huge. It takes so much courage. And I'm so excited to see the way that the world and I would say the universe has rewarded her authenticity. She is someone that said, I'm going to be myself and I'm going to be consistent with that. And we have celebrated her in that with a YouTube series years ago that turned into an HBO series and so many other opportunities. And we are excited to celebrate her brilliance, not only in her work, but so happy that she found love. So if you didn't see it, I wanted to make sure that we share these absolutely gorgeous pictures from her wedding. Look how beautiful and how happy she looks. She always looks happy, but this is a beautiful pictures from her wedding day there. And the fact that she kept this relationship, which I'm sure her close friends and family knew, but the public had no need to know, because the best thing about Issa Rae that the public needed to know was the fact that she's amazingly talented. But it's a beautiful example of the fact, like I said, that you can absolutely have it all. And reality check, women can have it all. You can be talented. You can be a boss chick. You can be, amazingly forward in everything that you do and authentic and still find love, because there's nothing wrong with that. So often we hear that women can't have it all, and she is crushing that and proving that you can, proving that you can be authentically yourself and still win. That's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful message. And also proving that just because you don't post something on Instagram and you don't have everybody talking about the fact that you have relationship goals doesn't mean that you don't have an amazing relationship. So we don't always have to take everything to social media. That's a beautiful example of that. So I just wanted to take a little time out on this Monday to celebrate our beautiful sister, Issa Rae. Now, without further ado, we got to bring our other sister on. She is here. I think this is her third time on Reality Check, and I always enjoy her every single time. Please help me welcome Miss Kimmy Scott.
Yay!
Hey, Kimmy.
Hey, how you doing, Crystal?
I am good. Happy Monday to you. How was your weekend?
I had a pretty busy weekend, actually. I had to speak at a Mommy and Me brunch,
Okay.
which I adored. I was the keynote speaker.
Nice.
And it's a scholarship brunch for single moms.
Nice. Okay.
And I cried. And I said, the keynote speaker not supposed to cry.
No,
because I was so
yes.
moved. It was a great experience, and it was a great initiative. And so we were busy. We were doing stuff all weekend. So
Nice.
I'm glad to get to Monday. That sounds weird, but I am glad to get to Monday.
Monday, so you can take a break.
Yeah.
I always wonder, what do you guys do? Obviously, you weren't watching the show. Do you watch the show every Saturday with viewers? Is that the first time you see the show?
Yes, ma'am.
So do you usually sit and what do you guys do? Do you and Maurice sit and watch it together? How do you guys do that on Saturday nights?
It varies. Most of the time, we'll watch it together or with a handful of our friends. But because we don't see it early, we don't get like a little director's cut or anything like that.
Yeah.
We really want to watch the show. And so
Right.
sometimes when we're with our friends, or sometimes we go to Black, it's loud and you can't hear, and you're like, what did I say? Was it nasty? So most of the time we'll usually come here. And even when we have people here, Maurice will like go in the bedroom and watch it by himself because he
Wow.
wants to actually hear it.
Yeah.
So he can live tweet and do all of that kind of stuff. So we watch it when y'all watch it, and we look forward to it. You know,
Yeah.
we don't want people to call us on the phone and we're like, you know, we're on TV, right?
You know I'm on TV.
you know I'm on TV, right?
Do you watch it? Are you ever surprised? Because I always think if I'm watching and the first time, we usually think that you guys already know, but the green screens with well, not the green screen, but the times where you hear conversations that you're not involved in that may be about you. Do you ever have a reaction? Because my thing would be, I would just pick up the phone and be like, did what? Do you have that reaction, or do you know, okay, this was shot a while ago, I don't need to call her right now and have a conversation about it?
I don't do much calling. Even though some things do catch me by surprise.
Okay.
My first thought is that I really like to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
And that maybe it was edited a little weird. Maybe they snuck a little, jab in there when it really wasn't a jab.
Yeah.
But I don't do much. I don't do much calling when I see things that kind of surprise me. I just kind of take it with a grain of salt, and then I'm like, my turn coming.
Because I may have said something too.
Yeah, my turn coming. So, you might surprise me once, but it's I don't do much calling.
Yeah. I mentioned to you that I watched another interview that you did, and I could relate to you in saying that, you're one of those people that's like, if something doesn't feel peaceful, I usually just remove myself from the situation. But I've learned, and because I had a really bad habit of doing that. Oh, okay, she's okay. Well, that doesn't sit well with me, and I would move on. And later, I learned, and I'm still probably learning this lesson, that some friendships and some relationships aren't for certain things, so you don't have to totally distance yourself from them. You just need to reassess and maybe realign how the priority of that relationship in your life. Have you had to do some of that?
I'm still learning. Like I'm still learning, honestly, because I've done it my way for so long, because my peace is most important to me.
Absolutely.
I don't plan on being stressed out. Like I don't. And most of that comes from a place where that's why I say what I feel. Because I feel like if you just hold it in, it's just growing and burning inside of you. And so I've never been one to really hold my tongue, because I feel like that adds to my stress.
Right.
So I'm still starting to get a hold to that part. I still walk away. Like most of me, 80% of me wants to leave the environment of stress.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get better at that and learn the lesson, like you're saying, because I go across the board, because if you stress me out over here, likely you're going to stress me out over there too.
This is true.
So I usually go across the board, and I'm seeing in this arena that that's not healthy. And I've said, I think maybe on the interview before this show actually forces you to make some of those tough conversations happen that I normally wouldn't have. Yes. Because of the fact that I'm a walk away kind of person.
Right.
I don't have to keep revisiting stuff. You show me who you are, show me what you won't do, and let's, be about it. And to my benefit in that, I believe that helped Melody and I's relationship, because we were kind of, two ships passing, she didn't mess with me and I didn't mess with her, kind of thing. But they actually forced us to have some conversations to tell each other, well, what were your expectations of me where I let you down, and how can I do better? And it seemed to work.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great lesson. These shows always show us about ourselves. And so I know there are always issues with women, whether it's family or as friendships. There's always little nuances where someone's feelings got hurt and someone didn't know their feelings got hurt. So it kind of gives everybody an opportunity to see a more positive or more effective way to communicate. But you really do a great job, I gotta say. And a lot of the viewers are saying that you are a great communicator because you don't bite your tongue, but you're respectful. So a lot of times people that are honest, they are in your face and it comes out and it's like, oh, that delivery's just killed it. But you have a way of being able to be authentic, but yet remain respectful. And I admire that. I want to play a clip really fast. If you guys are just tuning in, we are, of course, talking with Kimmy Scott from Love Marriage Huntsville. She is joining us here. We're talking about this show. And before we get too deep into this, I want to play this clip because this clip exemplifies the great communicator that I think Kimmy is.
You, Mel, y'all had conversations. Mel didn't call you a name to your face. She didn't call you a trick. She didn't call you a hoe. She didn't say you interfered with her marriage. This girl called me all of those things. The fact of the matter is nobody was saying anything in my defense. That's how I feel when I say, like, what you're requiring, I didn't feel like I was getting either. And that's where that comes from when I say that. When it comes to me, part of you expects part of me to be a little different for you.
Absolutely. Like, I feel like our relationship was closer than anybody else, with you and anybody else out here.
Tisha's spoiled, and Tisha wants what Tisha wants when Tisha wants it. At the end of the day, it's probably all of us who made her that way by spoiling her and condoning a lot of things instead of saying, like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that, or catering to her or pampering her. We probably made that bed. I adore you, T. I absolutely do.
I can appreciate that. It's just your action lately just hasn't been that. Like, I can know somebody love me, but you have to show me also. Words mean nothing if your action is not lining up.
In the last 6 to 9 months, it hasn't been.
Right. How do we move forward if your action, because that's just gonna push me back farther, because it is hurtful, because I just felt like we was better than that.
And that's exactly what I mean. You know how to be honest and tell your truth, but still be very respectful and give it and very kind. So in that moment, because I think Tisha especially, I mean, you, Tisha, and Melody, very strong personalities, and you can see everybody's point of view. So, and for a long time we saw you were kind of like the middle person, didn't really have an issue, but we see you really just being honest with Tisha about your feelings and being honest with the fact that you probably created some of that by not holding her accountable and maybe babying her. People are saying that they don't feel like she actually heard you. We all heard you. Do you feel like Tisha heard you in that moment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why we've had the conversation several times. And I think later in that same, it might have been, that was episode 1. I think this past Saturday, I might have added to that I think Tisha's mind is made up. Like, her mind and her head has determined how this is going to play out. And it's almost I don't know, when it's not much I can say that can change it. And even like she said, she was 100% factual in saying, to say you love me and then those actions don't necessarily marry up. Mm-hmm. Like I said, she's correct.
Yeah.
I haven't been that person, because every time I turn on the TV, I hear you talking about me. Like, it makes it tough.
Yeah.
Like and I don't even know how to say it different. Like, it makes it tough. So when she says it's going to push me further away, every time I turn on the TV and I hear you say something about me, it's going to push me further away.
It's pushing me further away too. Why do you think that everybody protects Tisha? you know, the public is going to have their opinion, right?
Of course.
And they definitely share it via
course.
social media. But why do you think you and maybe some of the other people that you were referring to kind of protect her or babied her and did not hold her accountable for so long?
Somebody gave an example. I can't remember if it was someone we were interviewing with. But the example was, and I want to give credit to where it came from. I just really can't remember, to be honest. But the example was, a lot of times in your life, people may do things that are really kind of small, and you don't really look at it as being like a big issue. Like you just kind of, she was upset, but that's no big deal. You know, oh, she forgot that she told that story. Oh, that's no big deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's no big deal, but it's so many little small things. And then when they start getting bigger, then somebody gave an example. Like, I want to borrow $20. You give them $20. I want to borrow $30. You give them $30. I want to borrow $50. You give them $50. Then all of a sudden they're like, listen, I need about $4,000. Can you? And then all of a sudden you're like, what are you doing with your money? The whole time they was wasting their money. You know what I'm saying? But when it was $20, $30, who said that? Somebody's going to see this video and go, that was me, Kimmy, that was me.
They can tag themselves in the comments. It's fine.
Correct. Someone else made the analogy, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think they were just little small things that we were just like, you know, long before a TV show, I bought a t-shirt that said spoiled ish. Like ISH.
Right.
Because we've always teased her to a degree that, you know, Marcel pampers her. Like Marcel pampers her. And there's a lot of women who would like to be pampered.
Oh, absolutely.
But we didn't look at it like it's a problem.
Right.
Like, you know, it's not a problem. It just is what it is. So when the dragon gets bigger and it's not a little teeny lizard anymore.
It gets on television, and then all that pressure starts. Right.
Correct. So I just think they were just little things along the way that were insignificant.
Yeah.
Like, you know, literally just insignificant. And whoever made that analogy, I'm giving you the credit for it. It wasn't mine. But it makes sense.
Yeah. Last question on that dynamic, because to me, just watching it from my perspective, the first few seasons, and I really think someone says, I think Funky Dineva gave that example. And
it very well may have been. And please give Funky Dineva the credit, because I don't need trouble.
You are definitely trying to give the credit. That's what's up. But from my perspective, it seemed like Tisha was more fragile, and I think it's because it may be my perspective of seeing. You obviously got a lot going on. We're going to get into all your jobs, all your many jobs and everything you have going on. Melody seemed very just like she had a lot going on all the time as well, even though she was married. And I'm sure Maurice, and at one point, Martell, well, I would just say Maurice treats you well. And, you know, Melody was had a husband, but she was still very much, it seemed like in her professional career. Tisha, it seemed, did not necessarily. So I think, and she just seemed more fragile to me. She just seemed like a sweetheart that didn't have maybe some of the experience. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but just, I mean, most of us don't want to get the experience. We don't have a choice. So it seemed like she just, you know, was a little bit more just not as experienced in certain ways, and that would make people kind of cater to her. Now we see that she's kind of coming into her own. I think when I interviewed you guys the very first time all together in person at Rolling Out, which was great, that you can see her beginning to come into her own, where maybe you guys had already passed that place in life. Do you think that could have something to do with it, that she was not quite as mature in certain ways as maybe you and Melody and even some of the other ladies that we see on the show are?
Not really, because she worked when her and Marcel got married. You know what I'm saying? She was a career woman. She had her degrees and she worked, and she liked working. You know, I know for a fact that she changed some of her trajectories in path.
Right.
after she got married and had children. And then the decision was made for her to, stay at home with the kids. Sometimes once you start having children, you get to a point where your whole check is going to daycare.
Oh, absolutely.
And so you make a conscious decision, like, I might as well stay home with them before I go to work and then don't see them and pay all my check to daycare.
Right.
So I know that was a conscientious choice with them.
Okay.
So to your point, I don't necessarily think she was just coming into her own. That's not my particular opinion. I think she's been coming into her own for quite some time. However, I think she wanted to blossom in her own right. She didn't want to be under the wing of Marceau.
Yeah.
But as far as coming into her own, she was career oriented. She knew what she wanted in life. Some of those things changed because she got married, but I think she wanted to be Tisha.
Yeah.
Tisha. She didn't want to be Marceau's wife. She wanted to be Tisha.
And sometimes not. I mean, this isn't a bad thing because I've had small children, and sometimes you kind of you put them first and you let yourself go. And I think most really good moms do that. And then it comes a time where it's like, okay, I got to find myself again because I want to be happy as well.
When you look at it, it's so many sides to that coin. You know what I'm saying? I've been working since I was like 14 years old.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for Mr. Scott to say I can stay at home and not do anything. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying there's people out there that would relish that moment.
Absolutely.
Even if it's momentarily, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's people out there who say, man, let me stay home.
Yeah. And I will say this. I remember from when I was married the first time, my ex actually showed me, you actually, especially if you have 2 to 3 children and they're small and they are in daycare and you're spending gas and food and snacks and all that, you actually save more money as a family and you can be more financially responsible by staying at home. So there's nothing wrong with that. And I think there's a ditch on either side of the road, but I love seeing the growth in all of you. And I really think for her, especially, we've just seen her, you all didn't have that. We didn't see that from you. We saw you as someone that was working all the time. Right. And we see her finishing up her master's and doing that. And so coming into a different space. So anyway, I wish her all the best. And I think there's a little bit of that a lot of different people can relate to, because you're right.
Correct. 100% correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you said that you would I can't see you sitting down, Kimmy. You do so much. Would you honestly be able to sit down if the practice takes off? We're gonna send that energy out there. Maurice's practice is going to take off. It's going to be, one of the best in the Southeast, where he's busy. He's got clients, and you can actually sit at home and do philanthropy or whatever. Are you going to be able to do that, Kimmy?
So probably not. However, I would enjoy the first couple weeks of it, to be clear. And to that end, financially, he would let me stay home now. Financially, we're not in a place where I couldn't stay home. But he's just not that. He's not of that mindset. He's of the, an idle mind is the devil's workshop kind of thing. Yeah. And I need to see you busy. Like, I just like busy is a turn on, you know what I'm saying? So financially, we're in a place where he could easily, you're good. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
I remember when I was pregnant and I took 6 weeks off of work after I was pregnant. And I was literally walking through my house like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Like, oh, what am I going to do now? I would vacuum on one day, and then I would cook a bunch of meal preps for myself on one day and, run errands or something. But no, I don't think I could stay home. But it would free up a lot of time for me to do more community efforts. Yeah. Even on the weekend when I had to speak, I was trying to do another drive for book supplies, back to school supplies. And they thought I was going to actually make an appearance. And I was like, I couldn't do it. Like, I just had this whole thing and I wasn't able to, kind of scoot around. So it would really free me up to do some of those other things that I actually really enjoy doing. Like these, I love this.
Yeah.
Like, I love this. I love speaking. I love those kind of things.
Yeah. Well, because people are asking what are the hats that you are currently balancing? We saw the catering, and we see that you're doing that. We know that you are in the healthcare industry. Obviously, you got to help with. I'm certain that you help with Maurice's practice just by being his wife.
Correct. So for me, and Mel, she teases me all the time because I don't know me just doing one job. Like, I just don't know me having just one job ever in life. And most of it is just because the side hustles are passions. Okay. And the main hustle is to pay the bills.
Right.
You know, so by trade, I'm a nurse by trade. And I was the executive director for the longest time in that field. So that's my it's my passion too, because I love being a nurse. I think I'm a great nurse. But I like cooking. Like, I love to cook. I love to cook. So when time allows, I like to do that as well. I just so happen to come along this meal prep thing. And it's only because I like to cook, and my friends know I like to cook. And Maurice wanted to try to lose a couple of pounds. And so he asked me to do some meal prep for him. And I did that. And so, of course, he takes the plates to work. His friends see him eating in the car, wherever. And so, you know, Marshall's like, hey, sis, can you do a couple meal preps for me?
Get me too, right?
And Sadarik is like, hey, Kimmy, can we talk? Like, can we talk about some meal prep? And it really kind of just pummeled, like, just insanely at 4 or 5 people. And that's a lot for me when I'm trying to do a full-time job, because I don't want to spend my entire weekend cooking. You know, my weekend is when I kind of refill my cup, so to speak. And so that's kind of blossomed a little bit more than I had anticipated, to be honest. And it goes hand in hand with my catering business. And the catering business is K&K Cuisine. Is my best friend Carnice and I. And that's kind of seasonal. You know, we do a lot of stuff at graduation time. We do a lot of stuff at Christmas time. But that's not like all year long, because we kind of got into that because our sorority wanted to have a program at Okkwood College, which is a Seventh-day Adventist college, and they wouldn't let them have meat. And so they called us to say, well, we know y'all Seventh-day Adventists. What can we make if we can't take chicken and meatballs? And you know what I'm saying? And we were like, oh, we'll do it for you. Nice. And so that is literally how it started, because we're capable of cooking for 200, 300 people.
For large amounts of people. And I didn't know you were Seventh-day Adventist. That's cool to know as well.
Right. So it literally spiraled from there. Just people coming to different events and, I want y'all to cook for this. My son's graduating. My son's doing this, or my daughter, or we're having a Christmas party. And it really just kind of grew from there. And we don't advertise. We're like,
well, the show is a huge advertisement, I'm sure.
It is. I can get emails and everything.
Yes, I'm sure. That's a good thing. That's a beautiful thing. Thank you to Mr. Carlos King. And
it is. Always kudos.
Yeah, built-in advertisement. So I want to ask you, because you're moving into a different space, even as a mother, with your son being almost grown, but you still are a mom, and we see him kind of spreading his wings. How is that? How is it going through that, playing out on television? Because everybody has comments. I can't imagine people telling me what they thought I should say to my kid, or how I should feel about my kid, or all that. How are you dealing with your relationship with your son and it playing out on the television show?
You know what's funny to me? I probably take more exception to my husband and I playing out on TV than my son and I. Because I think I've done a good job with my son.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't really stress me out what people say. Sometimes it might be true. They might say, "Ooh, he look lazy laying on that couch." Sometimes he act lazy. I'm just saying, and I'm like, listen, what I'm not gonna do is have a lazy kid. Get up, clean your room, take the stuff outside, do something with your life. So, I mean, who among us doesn't have a young adult, older teenager, 20-year-old that lay around and do nothing sometime?
Right.
I do. So that's not the image that I'm trying to portray. So when people say that, I'm like, you ain't really hurting my feelings. I'm still trying to make him see. And that's part of that conversation we had last season when I was like, Maurice, he has to work.
Yeah, I
Like,
love that. Yeah, you're
he
like,
has to
no,
work.
this is not what I'm not trying to baby him. But I also love the fact that you have, because so many single moms don't have a man that's trying to help, right? So you're saying, no, he has to work. But I love there's also that balance, because it's hard understanding what a man needs, but you're definitely trying to make sure he's prepared and you don't want a lazy. I respect that so much, but it's great seeing that you kind of have that balance. So, Maurice can step in there. That's a blessing.
And Maurice wanted him to work. It was just that Maurice is an entrepreneur. So he was just thinking in the vein of entrepreneurship.
Right.
If he was a 9-to-5er like me, we both would have been looking at him like, bruh, get up and go get this thing figured out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He still wanted him to work. It was just he wanted him to put his energy into doing the entrepreneur activity that he was interested in. And everybody has their own story when they're raising their kids. Like, I won't never be one to say you shouldn't do that with your child. That's your child.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want with your child. Like, that's the part, I guess, for me, that's just, it's not overwhelming. It's shocking that people have so many opinions. And I'm like, with my little circle, I don't tell people what to do with their kids.
Right.
Like, I tell them if they bring them here, what I'm going to do with your kids.
Right.
So if you bring them over here, but I don't tell people what to do with their kids. Like, your child better than I know your child. So
or their kids or their husbands. I have learned to let people do with their husbands. If a dear friend asks for advice, I've even learned sometimes to keep my mouth closed on that, because your husband is your husband until he's not. Now, once he's not, I can be like, girl.
Right. You sound like my mom. My mom would do that. She wouldn't say nothing while I was dating the dude, but once we broke up, she said, listen. And I'm like, now you gonna tell me?
Now, I say it if you're dating, well, kind of. Now but especially when people are married, you just can't.
You're right.
It's not your place. And the funny thing is, people will say things to you, and it's like, you already know. If you got a situation where your husband is not doing what he's supposed to do, she already know.
She already know.
Put it out.
It's like telling me I got to run in my pantyhose 4 times in church.
I already had seen that. Or people like, you look like you gained some weight. You act like I don't see the scale. Like, I know what the scale says. Well, I know.
Like, I missed that.
Right. No, I pulled these pants on. I know what they look like. I don't need to tell you that.
That's me. I'm telling you. Like, people ask you questions and they'll go, well, do you ask your cast member? I'll be like, no. I said, when they're ready to tell me whatever it is they would like to tell me, then they can tell me. Yeah. I've just never been that kind of person. Like, I've just never been one to just dig into your business and into all your stuff. I feel like if our relationship is in a place where you want to share it with me, then that's when we're ready to talk about it. But I've just never really been a digger.
Well, a lot of people can take a message out of your book, because that's a great place to be. Sometimes you think you're helping, you're not helping. You just need to let that person have their space. And then when they're ready to share with you, they will. I know, like I said, I know we're just about out of time, and I got to ask you a couple more questions. The first one, I'm assuming, especially with your way of staying out of people's business, it has got to be hard seeing the breakdown and now the divorce and then the aftermath of one of your good friends with Martell and Melody. I mean, what we saw this past weekend was hard to watch. It's been hard to watch this entire time. I know that's got to have been hard for you all. How have you guys kind of dealt with trying to be friends and support them both, and seeing both of them hurt like this? It's got to be difficult. How have you and Maurice been able to do that as a couple?
It is. And after Melody and I had our conversation, I try to reach out when I see that, it's maybe a stressful day. Like, even when we do these interviews, a lot of times Melody is usually pretty upbeat and in a good place. Right. And so, like, sometimes if she's not, sometimes even while we're on here, you good, girl? Or either I'll text her like afterwards and say, like, are you okay? Like, is everything okay? Maurice probably talks to Martell more. Like, we weren't friends to that degree where we talk on the phone or anything like that. But if I see him out and about, or he calls, like for my birthday or something, he'll call and say happy birthday, that kind of thing. I'll do a check-in, you know, how you doing? How's it coming along?
Yeah.
But him and Maurice are, you know, they're friends. And so they usually talk more in that regard.
Yeah.
When we have activities, we do try to ask both of them if they're okay if the other person comes.
Yeah.
At the moment, we haven't had anybody say no. So when somebody says no, then you got to pick, you know.
And that's a whole nother, yeah.
Right. So at the moment, they usually like, yeah, I think we'll be good, you know, what have you. But we usually ask in those cases just to see that the temperature in the room is going to be okay and nobody's going to feel any kind of way that the other person is there.
Yeah. It's hard to watch. And I definitely, Melody is strong and has great character and has held herself up extremely well. I think the show does a great job, and kudos to the producers of showing that even though a person makes a mistake, we all make mistakes. Some mistakes are bigger than others, bigger and longer than others.
Agreed.
But that person is still human, and they're still are going to hurt from the aftermath of that. So that support that you guys provide for Melody, and then the guys really, you know, we see them support for Martell, but still hold him accountable is, I think, you know, another lesson that people can learn.
Correct.
Like I said, I got to get ready to let you go, but I want to ask you, what is your vision for your marriage? We see you guys don't really have, we see small issues, but it definitely has paled in comparison to some of the other issues that some of the other couples have dealt with. We just had another divorce on the show besides Melody and Martell. What is Kimmy's vision for the two of you guys as you guys continue on this show? Because a lot of times we know reality can be difficult on marriages. So what do you see, and what is your prayer for you and Maurice moving forward?
One, I want us to grow stronger together and build our relationship, and prayerfully be an example at some point to somebody. That was the whole intent of the show, being married couples, you know, seeing people in everyday trials and how they deal with it and how they get past it. We weren't always as amicable as we are. We would argue at the onset of our relationship because both of us are pretty strong-willed, and both of us would feel from time to time how the words came out were disrespectful, and both of us have an Achilles heel for that, you know. Just don't talk to me disrespectfully. And so that has been a huge growing area for us that we want to share. You know, we're not here to act like we don't have problems, because we do. Are we going to get a divorce over the problem? No, we're going to try our best way to work it out. You know what I'm saying? And my goal is to remain respectful to my king. And in that vein, that helps our relationship flourish. Like that just, it is what it is. You know, they say happy wife, happy life. But it's happy house, you know, happy spouse, happy house,
happy spouse. Absolutely.
Right. So it really kind of goes both ways. And so when we do hit a pitfall, we try to figure out how we're going to get past the pitfall, to be honest. And so I've heard people say, like on here before, you know, oh, we're not faking there. The other couples aren't that happy all the time. And we're really the fun loving. We joke and play and we do that all the time. But when it's not right, it's not right. Just like any other couple. Like, we have been blessed that since the show has been on, it hasn't been catastrophe type stuff for us. And that might be a bad thing when it comes to reality. We might have to throw some pots and pans around here to make sure you don't get
to quit your spot. Please. No, we need.
That's unfortunate to say, but I'm very serious. Like,
you are 100%
look for
right.
drama. Like, you don't have no drama. What's she even doing on the show?
That's
Forget that she worked 3 jobs and take care of her house and got a law practice and
I think you'll be okay as long as you don't move. If people want you to move into Scott Manor, if you move in, you may have some additional drama. If you move, Kimmy, I think that may take you to a whole nother place. But I want to thank you so much. Like I appreciate you being patient with me. We've gone a little bit over, but I thank you for doing this. Hopefully one day we'll be able to have you and Maurice come on and we can talk about that. That'll be great. We'll have to reach back out. Yeah, that would be good, because I think that marriage, we do want to celebrate Black love and the fact that, marriage is not about being perfect. It's about working through things together, blending families and all that good stuff that you guys all have shown. Even the ups and downs of it, are important. So we wish you guys the best. We're always watching with you, always watching on Saturday nights. And so
Saturday night on 9/8 Central.
9/8 Central, we're there. Thank you so much, Kimmy. And we will definitely have you come back before the end of the season, because the season is long. So
please do. I'm sure we'll have much more to talk about.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
we will tell all of those fans that say, oh, she's so nice and so calm. Keep that same energy. I'm going to look for you to keep that same energy.
I love that. Thank you so much, Kimmy. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, babe.
All right. Bye. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. You guys know what it is. It's back-to-back reality check. So stay right there. We're coming right back with another interview right now. We ran a few minutes over, so make sure you stay there. Stay locked in for the next interview. We have Miss Alexia from Put a Ring on It. Put a Ring on It coming up right next. See you guys in 2 and 2.